It is Wednesday, rawmike.richards.com. Broadcasting live from 234 King Street East, downtown Toronto. The location, the Pacific Junction Hotel. Really interesting show today for a lot of reasons. Of course, we'll get to the Kyrie, Isaiah Thomas trade, which was pretty shocking on a lot of levels. Not that it wasn't being talked about, but I think you trade to your rival in your same conference. It's just something that's really not done in other sports. We'll break it down, including all the riches that I believe that Cleveland got. And when it comes to professional athletes, how do you ignore the fact that we're going to talk about things and use words like brand? Well, we're talking about the media. Daniel Shahori has written a book called Media Whore. And he's going to talk about those very issues and the importance of it in this day and age. And there was a time where you just hope to make the pros and make the team and hopefully have an illustrious career. And then, of course, now it's about who's endorsing your shoes. Do you have your own line of
how to market yourself?
And
how not to look like an ass.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people out there that just don't get it. And there's other people that are pure geniuses, and you could do it yourself kind of thing.
Well, some are also, Dave, just given such a huge advantage in life that they're going to have these opportunities, and they throw them away.
There's an eclipse behind me, eh?
Is that showing up? The eclipse is
the eclipse is behind me.
Yeah, we probably don't need that. Yeah. No, you mean the reflection on the monitor?
On the monitor.
Does that show up with Dave?
Sure.
When you go to that shot?
Go back to my shot for a second.
Oh, look at that.
Hey, no, that's a 3-shot.
Or he's an angel. Yeah. That's what he portrays at home. I think we all know differently. Also, talk a little Major League Baseball. I've got more fan fights. I don't know what my problem is.
Do you purposely go out and look for fan fights?
Now I look for fan fights. There's even one I'm thinking of showing. It's a woman.
Oh, boy.
So here's a question right now.
I really don't want to see a women fight.
So let's say, and I've never really been with that many women that would scrap. Like, no. I've not been with those kinds of girls. I've been with those kinds of girls, just not publicly or in a sporting event. But let's just say you are. And so there you are as a guy, and this woman is one of those. What if she did something to your girlfriend or wife in a stadium surrounded? Let's say you're at a hockey game, and the girl turns around and smack to your wife.
Oh boy!
As a guy, what are you supposed to do?
You have to stick. You have to look for the person that hit your wife's boyfriend.
Yeah. So you gotta go. And one of the guys sitting there eating popcorn, going, "What's going on? What'd you do, you filthy whore?" I mean, you don't know. And there is a situation like that, and then all these guys start scrapping, and one guy comes from another place, and because the one guy, you can see it. He wants just some sort of shot at this woman.
You know what the bad part is? If the girlfriend fights, chances are the guy fights too, because it's the same.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm just saying that, we're going Nebraska on you. I'm sorry. That's the way it is.
Poor Nebraska after yesterday.
Nebraska's taken a beating the last 2 days.
Yeah, all enamored with the sun that goes out in the middle of the day. Yeah, they got it yesterday. Well, let's start with the news of the day. We're talking about Kyrie Irving. We're talking about Isaiah Thomas. But that's not the only thing that happened yesterday. But it is just a mammoth trade where you see some, obviously, assets going the other way as well to Cleveland, including that first-round draft pick that they ripped off of, like the poor Brooklyn Nets. Because you got to figure, depending on where they finish, that's where that draft pick is going to come. Well, where do you think this year the Brooklyn Nets are going to finish?
Bottom 5.
Yeah.
Bottom 3, bottom 4. I would say lower than 5.
Because it's a lottery-style pick, it's conceivable you get a number 1 out of it. Like, depending on where those magical balls fall, that's what happens. So, along with Crowder, and I don't know about Zizic, how much that plays into it, but we're talking about Isaiah Thomas, Crowder, who can, I guess in this day and age, in terms of NBA, yeah, he's a defender, but he also can kind of protect LeBron. Look, even LeBron is bigger than a mountain, You still need your star players being helped out there. Like you need a little bit of muscle. Crowder provides that. So I look at this deal, and single-handedly, they get Kyrie Irving, a freakishly good athlete, a bona fide all-star, a guy with a championship caliber play, and now he's got to be the man. The man. That's what he wanted. That's what you wanted. You wanted him, or he wanted to be not, and one of the and guys with LeBron's name first.
That's exactly it. And you know what? And considering he did not want to be with the Cavaliers picked up a boatload of talent. And I'm not sitting there saying Isaiah Thomas is better than Kyrie Irving, because he isn't. But to pick up him, Crowder, the other piece, the first-round pick, Danny Ainge was feeling really generous yesterday. Honestly, I don't understand the unprotected first-round pick that goes to Cleveland as well, because you gave them a bunch of stuff already that the Cavs will utilize. Don't forget, Cavs also have Derrick Rose probably coming off the bench. If Derrick Rose can have some sort of semblance of what he can do or stay healthy, which is, virtually impossible.
And if we're talking about the significance of a Derrick Rose, where would it be? We're just talking playoffs and probably the finals. So before you get too tangled up into, but that's a long regular season, I'm going, clearly the regular season means nothing in the Eastern Conference in the NBA. It really doesn't.
Bingo. Even
if Cleveland came 7th because at some point they were playing their girlfriends, maybe at one point the 2 guard was a dog. Just because they wanted to see if they could beat a team with.
We saw a good-looking dog really good. Here earlier, and if he's playing for the Cavs,
it doesn't matter. And in reality, if I'm looking at this, what does that mean this season? What it simply means is Cleveland's going to the NBA Finals again. That's what that means. So the only thing, Dave, I can think of, if you're a Celtics fan trying to take something away, are you better than you were last year? Well, when you have to change that many players, it takes that much longer to play cohesively as a team. As they say, there's only one ball, and that may not be their biggest problem. I always think it's about playing team defense. You've got to be able to play D. And if you want to argue that point, so just take a look at Golden State. What do they still do as good and sometimes better than most teams? They play defense. Forget about the Splash Brothers. Forget about all those incredible things, including the addition of Kevin Durant last year. They still can shut you down when they need to. I think every team's going to still have a difficult time if remaining healthy. The Golden State doesn't have another big run in them to win it again. But if you're looking at the East, there's still Cleveland, and I'm sorry, everybody else.
Yeah, when I say everybody else after, though, I am putting Boston in that number 2 spot.
100%.
I am.
I got no problem with that.
And the reason I'm looking at that is Boston may not do it next year, but it almost seems like Boston is building for 2018, 2019, because you look at Hayward 27, Kyrie's 25, Tatum's 19, Brown is 20. They still have a top 5 pick from Brooklyn. And Brooklyn, what the hell are you doing? Giving away all these unprotected.
They're the worst franchise.
Honestly, Boston absolutely crushed them on some of these deals to get this, and they still traded one away. They still have another one. If I'm forecasting the future, and LeBron James is eventually on the Lakers, don't be surprised if we see a Celtics-Lakers final in 2019.
It's the only thing that I really don't like about the modern age of the NBA. If you don't have the Super Friends together, if you don't have 3 legit all-stars that have decided in the offseason that they're all going to get – by the way, they can say anything they want. There's no tampering there. As a coach and a general manager, I can say, you know what I'd like in Los Angeles? Although Magic Johnson kind of came close on a talk show. What a surprise! Magic saying something on a talk show that if we had these guys, and these guys, you simply can't. But the players can go on Twitter and go, "Hey yo, Dave Bastel. Hey yo, Russell Graham."
That's the funniest part.
Okay, that's the weird part. I'm going to play for the Lakers. Why don't you guys come over? Well, you can do whatever you want, and there's no problem. I guess conceivably, because they're not the ones signing you to a contract. They don't sign other players. Players don't sign players. But I just think that there was a day. Well, probably myself growing up. If Dave and I, we can be the closest friends like we are now. But if we're playing against each other, I'm trying to beat him, and he's trying to beat me.
Bingo.
That's the game. So Larry Bird always wanted to beat Magic Johnson and vice versa.
I completely agree. And
Right.
one thing that still irritates me to this day, more today than yesterday in watching sports, is players making out on center court after a game or before a game. That still pisses me off.
The only because as a competitor, whatever happens on the ice, on the court, on the field, I'm highly charged. It's how I'm wired, and I think you're probably the
Bingo.
same way. Once I calm down and it's the parking lot, and then I go out there, there's Dave, there's Irene, there's the kids, all of a sudden, have your love in there. Like, catch up there.
Bingo.
But I'm probably, if I lose to Dave knows very well that I'm probably seeing blood and I'm not coming over.
I'm not sending you a
yeah.
Luch text saying, see, I told you I beat you.
See, I told you my field goal kicker, even though, you may have thrown for more yards, but I told you.
I'm not
No.
sending that text.
No, I'm sitting there. And
Ever.
I'm steaming. But I get guys like that. I mean, I get the wiredness, but the whole love you, bro thing and handshakes and I was talking to Kelly Rudy, and I said one of the hardest things ever for me was as a young guy playing goal and playing hockey, and we're gonna go to provincial championships and so on. Should we lose? Especially a series. If it was a series, and we didn't lose a lot of them, but if you did, that shaking hands at the end was. Kelly goes, I agree. He goes, I fucking hated it.
I don't know.
I hated it. Hey, nice try. Or good series, goalie. I'll kill your whole family with my stick.
Honestly.
Like, seriously.
And that's the toughest part. And we've talked to other people about that. Like Pierre Maguire saying it's one of the standouts of the sport. I'd still have a hard time shaking someone's hand after losing a 7-game series. Sorry.
I'm not that way.
No.
As you can tell, two real hardhead, ultra competitive, like douchebags on this show. That's what you got. Sorry. And for the wives who complain about it, you should have thought before the minister said I do, because I guarantee you Dave hasn't changed probably since 7th grade. Neither have I. Unfortunately for Russell, he's still in 7th grade.
That's true.
Daniel Shahori coming up. Media Horror is the name of the book that he wrote with his brother in L.A.
Yeah,
from what I
Steven.
understand. Steven.
It's a do-it-yourself, basically PR book that encourages artists, promoters, athletes, entrepreneurs, how to promote your own projects. And we see this in sports a lot of times, where we see somebody in that spotlight going, man, they're doing a hell of a job doing what they're doing, getting their message across, whatever they're trying to pimp, sell, encourage people to do. And then other people, you sit there and you go, what a train wreck. Does he even know the first letter of the alphabet when he's trying to sell a product or promote something? So we'll talk to him in a couple of minutes. It looks like it's going to be a fantastic book. It's coming out in September. We'll know more about that in 10.
Speaking of those that, the accountability that an athlete would have to media. Yeah. Do they consider that when they make some of these moves? For instance, Andrew Wiggins, our Canadian star. So he gets the max contract extension with his current agent, Bill Duffy. It's a 5-year, $148 million contract. And then Andrew Wiggins quickly filed papers to sever ties with his representation. That's BDA Sports. So you get the max deal from your guy. The max deal. And the first thing you do is cut him out. So Duffy's like he didn't really, he was aware that there was rival agencies and potential startup enterprises that were recruiting Wiggins with inducements that included no commission fees on contracts. So commission can be anywhere between 3% and 4%. That's obviously significant when you're dealing with, $148 million. But that's the cutthroat world that we're talking about. And that is the kind of thing where I look at it and think, as much as we see on television the player agent and how much money they get, there still is that weird, almost Jerry Maguire thing about as good a job as you do even as an agent at the highest of levels, which an Andrew Wiggins would be. Your guy, you get the walking papers. Now, I still think that probably BDA will probably file something with the league saying, okay, whatever comes after that, that's the deal we cut. Those monies are still coming to us.
Sure.
It's kind of in real estate, kind of works the same way when stuff like that happens, and I think that's the way that it is here. But an NBA player can leave his agent anytime he wants, but the guidelines is that the compensation for previous agents is also negotiated under their watch. So I'm pretty sure with that contract, they said anything that comes beyond this related to that contract goes back to BDA. But it's still I mean, how do you feel, Dave? I mean, you sit there and it's the max contract, and then you're told, oh, by the way, fuck off.
Basically, that's what he said.
Yeah, it is.
That's crazy. What more did they really want from him? I don't get that. There has to be something more to this.
It's whatever was promised on the other side, and who knows? Well,
bingo.
No commission fees on contracts. I mean, just think about it. That kind of money. If you don't have to give that up. So what do you get on the other side, and what do they get? It's something that probably we'll talk to Daniel about, too, because quite honestly, again, we're talking about brand here. Do fans really care about that at the end of the day? No. They don't. They don't.
They want Andrew Wiggins to put on the Timberwolves jersey, score, and win.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yeah, do it. Do that and whatever. Just because the way the agents are seen, they're not seen in the greatest of lights.
No.
Look, if you're a Drew, was it Rosenhaus?
Yep.
You're just seen as a vulture anyway. And there's that weird. I mean, as soon as you know,
if you're Scott Boras, you're looked at as the devil.
Right.
Well,
right.
He's kind of earned that though, too, right?
And so, and these are the guys that also like the limelight.
Sure.
They love being on the camera and getting FaceTime as much as their athletes do. So that's another issue that we'll talk about with Daniel. By the way, before we get to him, we'll talk a little. I guess we'll do some baseball. Albert Pujols. I don't know if it's painful for young David Bastel, the fact that team that should have faded away so far has not.
Not painful, more surprising as hell. Is that a good way of saying it? Surprising as hell.
But that also is not in the I'm so happy for you category. I'm so glad I'm an Angels fan because you were ruining my life with this crap. Albert Pujols, who is Dominican-born, correct?
Yes.
So he becomes, with his 610th home run.
Walking Hall of Famer, by the way.
Yeah, he is. And, of course, the most home runs hit ever by a foreign-born player, I guess is how it's worded.
Yep.
He's another guy that people, when the steroid issue came up, a lot of finger-pointing at everybody else. But those around Albert Pujols said, if you saw how hard the guy worked, you probably wouldn't say that. Now, he kind of got a pass. In fact, I've never heard officially or otherwise someone talk about Albert Pujols being dirty. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's eye-rolling, Dave, but have you ever heard anyone come out and say Albert Pujols, one of the guys? Because I haven't.
The worst piece of news I've ever heard in his career is when he left St. Louis. There were a lot of sore. Yeah,
because you lost a huge player.
Exactly, and everybody thought that Albert would start and finish with the Cardinals, and at the end of it, he'd have a statue outside of Busch Memorial. So,
and you can understand why they felt that way.
Yeah, because you're looking at arguably the greatest hitter of the last 2 decades put into one. We're seeing him on obviously he's already over that hill and he's already halfway down that hill. But you know what? You're watching baseball royalty with every single swing, with every single walk to the plate, and that's why I make it a priority. Not only because I like the Angels, but to see Albert as much as I could. I used to, with interleague play, when the Cardinals would come to town, you go see Albert. Just like with Jaromir Jagr, I hope to God he signs with the Calgary Flames because you're looking at a Hall of Famer on the ice.
Like, who doesn't want to see that? And of course, selfishly in Calgary,
to see him in a Jet uniform too. I don't know if that's going to happen,
but selfishly in Calgary, I'm just going to hang around and see. Let's see who he throws away. Yeah. Honestly, I mean, he would be. I think he'd really enjoy Calgary.
He'd do well in Calgary.
Calgary would enjoy Jaromir Jagr. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? Don't you want to still see? Because look, if he was a spare, if he was a guy who literally had lost his skills and couldn't play, then you just become a bit of a circus act. He is still not a circus act in my mind.
20 goals last year, 46 points. You could use that on a third, fourth line.
Let's take a look. We talked about Hall of Famers, and once again, property of Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball Advanced Media, Albert Pujols.
Center field, DeShields, back track, wall, out of here! It's number 610. And Albert Pujols with an historic home run right there as that one leaves the park. His 19th of the season and most by a foreign-born player.
What about Giancarlo Stanton? So he cranks his 46th home run.
Monster.
do people, is their finger pointing with him?
No,
Because I don't hear that. I mean, look, there was a time, if you lived through the 2000s, then one of the conversations you had was clean, not clean. And invariably, everyone thought at one point, just nobody. Like, the way you look at the 100-meter dash with every competitor, you're like, I don't know. You know, you just really didn't know, and at some point you don't care. That's what it was like in 2000.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's doing it, so no big deal. Right?
Yeah,
That was the mentality of it. You know what the funniest thing about Stanton is? There's still talk out of Miami that he will be moved in the offseason just because of the heavy, heavy contract.
Well,
The Jays are looking for a right fielder.
with some of those,
I'm just saying.
historically, some of those Florida teams are South Florida teams. One year you win a World Series, the next year, fire sale.
It's so true.
And you know what? We don't need 9 players on the field at the same time. This year, we're going with 7. And 2 of them can't see. You know what I mean? Like, I get sick of this shit. But Giancarlo Stanton, you can't. Now, look, when you see this home run as you're watching on YouTube, hopefully you've subscribed to the channel or watching us on rawmickrichards.com. Unless, of course, we get pulled down by somebody. I got to tell you, that pisses me off so much. You want wrestling? You want to see a fight? Sorry. WWE yesterday. But you know what? I said WWF. So they gooned the whole program for the middle part of the day, but we still got it up.
Maybe they thought you were talking about the World Life Federation.
Yeah, that's right.
You were saving the Bears and the Ducks. And
when I saw that, I was like, send money to the WWF. I'm like, what? Why? Did Hulk Hogan run out of vitamins or Bibles when he's saying his prayers? What are you talking about? Save the stork. No, I don't care about storks. I care about the Macho Man. What about Miss Elizabeth? Get her some new clothes. Here's Giancarlo Stanton once again. He just doesn't even have a full swing. Just how strong this guy is. Just watch it. It almost to me reminds me as opposed to a guy who's in the tee box and loses his shoes, trying to get a long drive trophy. By the way, Coach Frankie goes, does Dave really swing hard? Does he swing hard? When he hit that ball sometimes, his feet aren't on the ground. They're not. The shoes are all over the place. Here's Giancarlo Stanton just pitching one over the wall with a kind of a half swing, courtesy of Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball Advanced Media.
It's a little old school?
No, it's like, hey, this is what I do. Stanton to right. That's got a chance. That is gone. Number 46 for Giancarlo.
Look where he hits the ball.
Field.
Look at this.
Stays on it, drives it down the right field line for number 46. How about it?
Giancarlo Stanton stays hot here in Philly.
That looked like an excuse me check swing because he saw it was going to be close to home plate.
Like if he turned around and went, man, can't believe I fouled that off. No, it was fair. And in fact, Giancarlo, is that how I pronounce it? It went right over the wall there. So they're calling that a home run. Really? Nah, seriously.
Yeah.
That just happened.
That is.
So that happened. Yep. Now run the bases, my friend, for the 46th time. How many is he going to hit?
60.
He's going to get 60.
He's going to get 60. My number is 60. Yeah, he still has 5 days left in August, all of September. You're going to start to see some of the September call-ups soon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Marlins are out of it. That's fine, but I just want to see totals. It's almost like Tamo Solani when he was running after 76 goals. You didn't give a crap whether or not the Jets won the game. You wanted to know if Solani had a couple of goals, including the empty netter, because he should have been on the ice for that too. You just want home run, home run, home run. You know what? He's going to hit 60. I got 60.
Okay, so we've talked about the big-time players in all of professional sport, but what's it like when you manage these guys in terms of the media? Well, someone has just written a book. That is Daniel Shahori, along with his brother Stephen. Media Whore is the name of the book. So when we come back on the other side, when it comes to these big names, the relationship with the media, how does this work in their world? Now, courtesy of TMZ Sports and Warner Brothers, here's someone that isn't afraid of being in the media. Terrell Owens.
You and McNabb have buried the hatchet. You know,
they were trying to get a workout in, man. You talking about McNabb, man? That's 10 years ago, man. What are y'all talking about?
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He was like, man, this is very cool. You know, he didn't even want to do the roast thing. He was like, basically,
that's
he had
him.
too much respect for you, you know?
Hey, that's him, man. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
It's one of the most legendary beefs, but like, you guys are cool now? Would you guys go out for drinks?
Oh, yeah, we cool.
There it is. When's the last time you ate like some like this like fatty like? Do you ever eat?
I just ate a pizza last night.
And you can still look like that.
No lie.
Damn.
But that's the thing. I wouldn't tell everybody to do that on an everyday basis because, again, everybody think they can eat pizza on a regular while they're training. But for me, this is not just 10 minutes of working out. This is not just a week, a month. This is a lifestyle.
How's your heart rate? Climbing? Must be climbing. You haven't said anything. That's the first time. Good job, my man. How you feel?
I feel good.
You think McNabb could have been on that rack as long as you?
Yeah, he was on that Campbell soup though. Yeah, I already know. I wasn't on that Campbell soup.
Once again, that's courtesy of TMZ Sports and Warner Brothers. And now, all the way from downtown Toronto. So I think Daniel probably walked here. The book is called Media Whore, and that's obviously why someone like that would be on camera right now. Daniel Shahori joins us. Thanks so much for coming in, Daniel.
My pleasure. Long-time subscriber. I'm happy to be here in person.
That is awesome. Just make sure you keep. I know it's uncomfortable to be close to something, but look, almost anything that we've talked about at any point in our entire careers, now that I look back on it, it probably falls into the category of what that relationship is with media. So when you talk about the book Media Whore, what exactly is the book?
Or anything, your relationship with anybody and anything. The book is intended for people coming up in any industry, whether it's sports, whether it's music, arts. It's while you're getting going, you may as well start creating a relationship with the media, because they're going to help you along the way, and it's a wonderful symbiotic relationship where you need content, and hopefully the person has an interesting story to tell you. So this applies to anything. Anything. If you could be opening a restaurant, you could have a dance company, whatever it is. While you're starting out, even if you believe, well, why would the media care about me? I haven't done anything. Nobody's heard of me. But even so, it's to look at that mindset and say, well, this is suggesting if I've just opened a restaurant for the first time, I was doing something else before that. So it's interesting, even though it might not be a wow story that will land you on the cover of a magazine, it's still an interesting story. Your origin story is very interesting. And if it's not everybody in the media is going to jump on your story right away, but over time. So when my brother and I first started, it took us a good year and a half before anybody even got back to us, just because we were doing, my brother and I were writing sketch comedy. We're doing it at a comedy venue, and they were big deal. They were the comedy people doing comedy at a comedy. What's the story here? Well, so we needed to learn over time. Well, we need to add a little bit more to that pitch than just that. So over time, so depending who we had with us, we had lots of. We would attract other artists that were doing interesting things as well. So now this person is somebody. We would add to our collection of interesting things to make our story more interesting. And we're going to encourage everybody to do that as they go along, no matter what they're doing.
Well, don't you think now that the way that we've raised our kids, the way that society is, that we're kind of raising a generation of kids who are going to be more media savvy because they're on media every day in their hand. At schools, they're on tablets. There's an awareness that I think growing up that we never had because there wasn't a direct tie between me and what I had for breakfast, instead of now the kids having breakfast and then taking a picture of it on Instagram and then telling everyone on Facebook, this is the breakfast I had.
That's right. Well, in that case, so they're going to learn, what they're going to learn is that if you inundate your friends with that type of information, you're going to get lost but eventually they're going to have something really interesting to say that's not what they have for breakfast, and then you might pay attention. So yes, they inundate their friends with this type of information, to the better or for the worse, depending on what they're doing. But they will learn what gets more likes than other things, right? And then they will gear their message towards that. Okay, at least when I talk about this, people are more receptive to me.
Interesting. So, and you talk about it, it's athletes, artists, promoters, almost anything. So over time, how have you developed a system of knowing what is right, what is wrong, and how long has it taken you and your brother to kind of figure this thing out? Because some people never figure it out.
That's right. I believe we're still figuring it out. It's been approximately 15 years of trial and error, and whenever a new media outlet comes along like this, it's okay. I want to make sure that if I'm going to bother you, I want to make sure that I've done my research. I know the type of topics that you may speak of. So I'm not going to waste your time with things that you're not going to talk about. But if I do choose to make contact with Dave and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is how I feel this fits in with what you're doing. Can I please come and speak to you about it? And it's just the whole book really could be summed up into ask very nicely and ask often. Be respectful. Be patient. If you don't hear back, like again, Steve and I didn't hear back for a good year and a half. It wasn't because we were doing anything wrong. It's just people in the I don't know how many media requests you get on a daily, weekly basis.
Right.
But let's take somebody from the Toronto Star, for example. There's somebody in the arts and entertainment editor. They'll receive up to 100+.
Yeah, they're getting
requests a
bombarded
day.
for every single player puppet show that happens in the city.
There's a lot of people trying to get their attention. So me knowing that, I'm going to be respectful because listen, I know you're busy. Secondly, I'm going to be very patient because I'm also aware that you're not necessarily going to be interested in what I'm doing, but I'm going to do something in a month from now, 6 months from now. I'm going to keep coming. So I'm going to be very consistent, and I'm going to be very persistent, but very politely, respectful.
So does the crazy shit work then? You know, because some people think, here's what we got to do. Dave goes out, he's naked, I paint him blue, I hang him down over a picture of Hitler. You know what I mean? People they go off the rails and think, does that actually work?
That would probably work.
Yeah, that would work. Okay.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, but that's
okay. We'll take out the Hitler part.
Take out the Hitler
We'll
part.
put in Mussolini. I mean,
it's good either or. Trump is going to get him attention.
Yeah, I was going to say Trump probably. Yeah.
But do publicity stunts work? Sure. I mean, it works for again. If that coincides with your personality and what you're doing, maybe that makes sense. We're saying, just ask nicely. Just let them know what you're doing consistently whenever you're doing something.
Who's the best professional sports league that gets media the best? Because I know, I just mentioned WWE, and we look back at the history of the WWF, and even though it wouldn't be considered probably media of that time, but it seems like if I'm grading everybody, I don't know if anyone's worked it better than professional wrestling.
WWE, I even talk about them a lot in the book, as they are total media whores. For better or for worse,
yeah.
But they also do a lot. So, for example, like they do a lot of charitable work. The company as a whole, as well as their individual performers, do a lot of work. And in some cases, like they're not shy about it. So, if you want to talk about John Cena, who just came upon 600 Make-A-Wishes, which is more than anybody in that organization, that's incredible. If you want to tout that, of course, it's a wonderful thing.
But they also follow your lead when you start talking about being polite and being nice. And I know that there was a study done years ago in the service industry where they ranked all the professional leagues and athletes that came in. And someone said, "Well, we'll try to guess who was first." And so I said NHL, just because a lot of the Canadian guys are kind of humble. They say sorry. They say thank you. They were second. Professional wrestling was first.
Why was that? What do you think that was?
What, in terms of why wrestlers first?
Yeah.
Well, in my experience, and Dave could probably speak to this even more, from almost the first big break I got at 1050 Chum years ago when I first started, it was Jimmy the Mouth of the South Hart came in. And, so he came in and was like, "Hi, man, how's it going? What's your name?" It's Mike. And he's like, "Well, hey, how you doing? Where are you from, Mike? Yeah, do you like this? Do you like music? Blah 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 blah." Everything was personally. They invest time in you as a human being.
Yeah.
Where some athletes come in, depending on their sport, and some are worse than others. They don't give a shit. They don't care who you are. Your presence is almost not even acknowledged. They're coming on and talk, and then they're leaving. The wrestlers, you almost felt like if you talked to them for a little bit longer, they might want to stay at your house overnight.
Yeah.
and there was this emotional attachment. Even though I didn't know anything really about wrestling. Jack Tunney came in a little bit later on. It was just amazing how they got in really the kinds of things you talked about. There was a humility about it. There was a politeness about them. It just all those things you actually want to see in a human being. I've always found that. Wouldn't you say, Dave, with all the wrestlers that have come in?
100%.
All of them.
There's, to take what you said earlier, there's a politeness about it. There's a friendliness about it, respectfulness, and everything. It almost seems that you talk about Media Whore, your book, it being a Bible of how to figure things out. WWE could probably come out with something similar to that, saying this is how the athletes should be treated when you're in Major League Baseball, the National Football League, NBA, whatever sport you're talking about. Because you're right, outside of wrestling, I would put the NHL close to the top. I would put the CFL
too.
Close to the top. I think Major League Baseball is the biggest disappointment of the entire group, where you kind of feel like a complete outsider in your own city with your own players, by the way, Toronto Blue Jays, and it's other stuff like that, where you sit there and go, are you relating that I'm here as a media person to talk to you for them?
That's right.
And them are the people that are buying your jerseys and coming to the building and eating your popcorn and filling your pockets with money.
They need to be reminded that they work for, this is a business, and you need to feed the business and facilitate that, because for everybody involved, the people that work the concessions at the stadiums, this helps everybody. So absolutely. Hearing what you said, Mike, about the wrestlers, made me think it's likely because there's such a performance aspect to what the wrestlers do. They're used to speaking to the audience. They're used to being.
It's very true. Yeah.
The persona is just as much as important as the physical activity in the ring. So they're more accustomed to being like that. And somebody like Jimmy Hart, who still has an amazing career as a mouthpiece, as somebody who, he's linked to Hulk Hogan, he's linked to the top names because of what you said. He walks in the room, he learns your name, he knows who you are. He just the same way Bill Clinton, and a lot of
great point, very great point. So let's take a look at this then from the media perspective, because I think since the advent of television and the debate between John F. Kennedy and Nixon, you realized, and they did almost right away, Nixon was up there sweating, looking like shit, wasn't very smooth. And there was John up there saying, well, that's good there, Baldy, because what you need to do is, and from that moment on, it's like, oh boy, okay, here's something we got to get used to. Then you fast forward to what exists now for Donald Trump, for Justin Trudeau. I mean, the modern day political leader. Who's really good at it? Is Trump? Trump has made his name manipulating media, through The Apprentice and through, what he has bought and how he has treated the media. But now it's a fight. Now he, on a daily basis, and through the biases that those that don't like him, and fair and unfair, we're not picking sides here. We're just talking about how one deals with the media.
Right.
Is he a genius or a disaster? Because in a given day, it seems both.
It seems both, and I've listened to so many different sides about that. I have people that believe he's Machiavellian and he's thinking 10 steps ahead, and there are people like, no, he is just stumbling upon this. He's making this up as he goes. He doesn't know what he's doing. I've heard both sides, and there seems to be evidence to both sides about this.
To both sides, I agree, because it's a difficult one to decipher. And then I look at Justin Trudeau, who to me reminds me of a guy that you went to high school with. He could be school president, but he wasn't going to be the prom king. You know what I mean? There's a difference. One is the sort of what the faculty and administration sees, like, oh, Justin's so good. Yeah, but what about Dave Bastel? Not the captain, the quarterback, gets all the girls. Caught him drinking in the parking lot? No way.
I've never heard of his father.
Yeah. But he might be truly the most popular guy. Justin wins because the resume looks kind of squeaky clean. He also, the Facebook, Instagram, although he's not a Twitter whore necessarily, and I've never seen anything like what Donald Trump does. But if you don't understand it, I don't know if you can win these days.
That's right. I don't know what he understood, but he did. You can't argue with what happened in terms of, and people might not like this. It's a popularity contest, like in high school, like
it is.
Example, and he won. He won the popularity contest, and for better or for worse, but that's what happened.
Yeah. Media Whore itself, when does it come out?
September 12th.
September 12th?
It's available in stores throughout North America and worldwide online through Amazon and places like that.
Okay. Publishing company?
Self Council Press out of Vancouver, a wonderful company. They're very happy with them.
You know what I like about this, Mike? I'm going back and forth. I've known Daniel. We've been emailing probably off and on for about 2-3 years. He sends me the note about it, and he says, I didn't want to sound like a hypocrite, so I'm doing my own PR. And I'm like, of course you're doing your PR. Yeah. Why would a PR guy let somebody else take care of your own stuff?
Self Council Press has a wonderful PR team.
Yeah.
And so we had to have that conversation.
Sure.
Exactly. I said, listen, we cannot look like hypocrites. I must engage the people in the media myself for this. And of course, they understood.
Makes a lot of sense, right?
What about stand-ups? Stand-up has changed because, and we have a bunch of them in here, and Andy Kindler used to come on the show a whole bunch. And, you know, there was a time where you could work on a set anywhere that you choose to do that. And by the time you get to a certain point, you've changed the words around, you've changed the timing of a word, delivery, all those kinds of things. Now you got your 45 minutes that you want, and then you go to a Yuck Yucks or, you know, whatever the big comedy shop, whatever it happens to be. But now you could be in just outside of Windsor working on something, and someone's got a phone, someone's got a camera. To do new material and then present it has become a bit of a challenge, but you can't fight it because it's here. Yeah. You kind of have to embrace it. Has media changed the way comedy works, do you think?
I never thought of it that way. I'm sure it has. I always encourage people to, when you're in the planning stages of whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a stand-up show, a play, whatever it is to start thinking of reasons on why you would talk to the media. Again, you're not just stand-up comic doing comedy at a comedy venue. There's no story in that, but there probably is a story in that. So you need to think about, well, what is it? So what am I doing now? Well, I've been doing this for 5 years. This is now, I'm planning my 5-year anniversary of me doing this. I'm thinking of new ways. You know what? I'm a big supporter of cats. So I'm doing this charity benefit for the local cat rescue organization.
I really hope that's not true. I got to be honest. This is in this show we don't have a lot of. We like the dogs, the cats.
I'm a dog guy.
Cats, yeah, there you go. Because cats are just sad.
I love.
Okay, let's change the story.
Cats are good.
The charity's called Nothing But Labs. How about that?
Whatever it is. So what? So it's just coming. It's so changing. It's just I'm always thinking of what else. What else is there? Hopefully, my idea is good enough to stand alone. If I'm writing a play, I hope the premise of the play should be enticing enough. But I'm not just going to rely on that. I'm going to have other elements. So I'm going to have 6-7 actors, let's say, in the show. Each of them have their own stories. Each of them have a talking point.
Because that has caused problems in the past. I look at, and we're both huge, and I'm sure you are SCTV fans. Yep. And still some of the most brilliant comedy we've ever seen. I could watch it over and over again. I'm never going to get sick of it. I love them all. But at one point, there was a little bit of consternation towards that end and the NBC part where the McKenzie brothers started getting, TV guide shots. They started Playboy magazine, whatever it was. They started Rolling Stone, I think they got into.
Yeah.
It didn't go over hugely with the rest of the cast members. And you can understand why. That's, pre-social media, but it's media nonetheless.
Well, it's still SCTV, right? It's still bringing eyes to the rest of them. I was unaware that there was any sort of discord amongst...
Oh, they were not pleased.
So this just happened last month. We did, you probably heard when Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas got back together, and they did a live benefit at the Second City Theater.
For Sun, yes.
For Sun, that's right. And they received a ton of media. They had all these places, Rolling Stone, they're getting BBC, they're getting worldwide attention about that. But the other people, I don't believe under this circumstance, mind.
Oh, I don't think in that.
Dan Aykroyd, Martin Short.
Everybody.
So many. Getty Lee showed up.
Yes.
All these people happy to understanding the context of what this was. This was about them. So back in the day, I mean, if I was Andrew Alexander back in the day, I would have said, listen, this is good for all of us.
And I think that's really what happened, to be honest. And I think, guys like Eugene Levy, who were huge stars, and Joe Flaherty, who did all those great characters, were like, so you spend all this time doing these great characters. Yeah. But see, it caught fire. It's like a guy in a band. Mm-hmm. So, you look at Peter Criss, and he somehow writes Beth. It's the only song that literally charted for the band, the biggest song ever. And the guys who wrote all the songs didn't write that song. It was Peter Criss. And so at the end of the day, do you think Gene and Paul were a little jealous? They probably were.
Maybe.
I mean, they probably were. There was Gene probably going, the fact is that in writing songs for Kiss, and I can speak to this, David, and then he but it made Kiss all of a sudden.
And nobody
you can't be
involved
jealous.
in Kiss has anything to be upset about, right?
Well, except for the guys they left on the side of the road, like Peter Criss, Ace Frehley. But
for the rest of their lives, they will always have that, right? They'll always have that.
It put them in another universe.
All of the SCTV people were fine, and all of them.
They've all done all right.
They've all done very, very well.
Yeah.
And just to go back, if we can go back quickly to the beginning of being nice and being respectful and being like, this is not a PR tool. This is something I'm sure all of our parents, Jesus, everybody taught you this. Like, this is old world information. This is like, treat people as you wish to.
Yeah, but some people don't get it though.
Yeah, but here's the, can you imagine? So here's Jesus now, and then he'd have to use social media,
right?
And the problem is he's going to put something on Facebook. There's like, I brought someone back from the dead, and they're like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Or here's one, gay.
That's right.
Why gay?
That's right.
Why is that? You just
worse than that.
Like sure it would be
called a faggot.
Yeah,
somebody back
that's right. Nice robe, not fail.
That's right. So that there's nobody.
I can't believe we're talking about Jesus on Twitter.
Well, just come on now.
But that's just it. There's no form of art that is immune to negative criticism.
Because Twitter's it's the nasty world. I mean, it can be really
anything like that where you can essentially be anonymous. Like we use that example in the book where like go on YouTube and look up anything from Beethoven and see how many thumbs down there are. It's like, come on, right? It doesn't matter how incredible you are. Somebody out there doesn't like you.
Well, so if in this day and age, and this is what we were talking about in the world of sport, you're a brand now. So Dave comes out of University of, where do you want to be from?
USC.
Nice. Not UCLA? I thought UCLA for sure. Okay, we'll go USC. All right, USC. And so Dave comes out of SC. The first thing, before he even gets out of there, he's looking for endorsements. He's looking for all these kinds of things. So he's sort of given it to him on a silver platter. He's born a certain way. He can play a certain way. He has all these things. But it doesn't guarantee necessarily that he's going to have financial and lucrative financial success if he doesn't understand his importance in what would be attractive to advertisers. So I go to a Colin Kaepernick who was fully within his rights to take a knee during the national anthem. But as I said, if you're his PR people and he comes to me and said, you know what I'm thinking of doing is taking a knee during the national anthem, I think it's going to get a lot of publicity.
You think he had that conversation?
I don't, like, but as a PR guy, if he doesn't come to me, I'm his people, I'm saying, what are you doing? If you came to me and said it's within my amendment, my rights to take a knee, I said, well, that's quite a statement. Once. Do it once. Because it's going to draw a lot of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Because here's the thing. When you keep disrespecting, because at some point it will be disrespect, it's going to be seen that way. Whether you feel differently, this is how the military, this is how patriotic people are going to see you taking a knee when the flag's out there and we're singing your national anthem. So here's what's going to have to happen. You want to do it every game. Okay, here's the thing. You better fucking win every game. You better win like 20-0 every game. You're throwing touchdowns over the back of your you better be the most amazing thing, because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people who are going to hate you for what you do. So just know that going in. We'll support you, but I'm saying in the long run, it may not be the greatest idea over a period of time. So I think that's something also too when you're in the PR camp that you've got to be aware of. And I think it goes back to your first statement. Be nice. Be humble.
And that is subjective to the individual. What that even means. What does that even mean to be nice to somebody? I might think I'm being respectful to you, but you're accustomed to 10 other people around you always that speak to you at a different level. That individual, I'll just say, I had never heard of him up until that incident, but I don't follow that sport.
Right.
But I know who that person is now. Does it matter that I've heard of him? Does it make a difference now that I've heard somebody who doesn't follow? Does it make a difference to him? No. Did it upset a lot of people? Oh, yes. I heard. That's mostly what I heard is the people that were upset about it.
So can there be, they always say any publicity is good publicity. Is that a misnomer, or is it true?
That's very subjective. I mean, what? So you tell me, because I don't know much about how is this person playing?
Well, he's not playing at all.
He's not playing at all. He doesn't have a job, doesn't have a contract.
They fired him for that?
Well, he basically was a free agent, and there's been no teams actively pursuing him right now.
Because he's become a burning dog. Like, you know,
yes, and
clearly,
clearly, he is at least good enough on more than a handful of teams to be a backup quarterback. I don't think he's a starter in this league,
but he can play in the league.
But he can play in the league. He's not been given that opportunity to. What's his next step from a PR standpoint to turn what they think of him into what he wants them to be, a contracted player on a team?
Yeah, how do you fix that?
Well, just like with whatever I'm doing, I'm not just thinking about this book. I'm here to talk to you about things I've yet to think about. In other words, I want to come back one day. So with him, you can't play football forever. So he must be thinking, I have some sort of cachet. There's a bit of currency around my name. What am I going to do with this next? Because football, even if he was the best player, he's not going to do this forever. And maybe if he was the best player, he would have so much money that he would be fine. But I'm assuming, as a creative, active human being, he probably wants to do something else. So
well, he better. Daniel, he better, because otherwise,
but at least now there's, depending on he could start his own radio show. He's outspoken. Even I've never heard this person speak, but he made a statement that I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Even
and he does have a following.
I didn't even hear why. I didn't even hear the reason why, and it doesn't matter,
right?
Because he probably has a much bigger following than he once did. Perhaps he lost a few along the way as well. Going to hockey, even though they're both very good, I'd much rather listen to Jeremy Roenick speak about hockey than Wayne Gretzky, even though
absolutely,
because he's more engaging. When I hear him, he tells me how he really feels, opposed to somebody like, I'm not picking on Wayne Gretzky, but his interviews would be, we came out here, we tried our best, we tried to score goals.
Well, yeah, it's some guys have it. It's why our good friend Jeff O'Neill at TSN. Actually, we're talking about that today. Who has taken his career and then moved it on to the next stage. He's done a brilliant job of it. He does a great job, because not only to play at that level, he isn't afraid to call someone out, and it makes it very, very interesting.
Don Cherry wasn't known for what he did in, actually, did he play 4 or 5 games? In
one
the
game,
NHL?
one professional game. Yep.
Okay,
yep.
So he was, but he's still one of the names that you think of most associated with hockey. I mean, I do anyways.
Yep.
As somebody, again, I'd rather hear what he has to say than 98% of the current players.
What's the biggest mistake for someone starting on a business? It's let's say even this project. What's the biggest faux pas, mistake, or fallacy that costs people in the long run? What do you think it is?
I would say impatience, as in, hey, Dave, you haven't gotten back to me about this. What's going on? And now I'm like, don't you? And in my head, I'm like, don't you realize how much time and effort I put into this? And now you're not getting back. So now I'm talking to you in a way that, like, this is personal.
Yeah,
right.
So I'm speaking to you in the disrespectful tone, and there are 1,000 people that would like to be sitting in this seat right now. So it would be very easy for Dave to dismiss me the next time, a month later, when I have something else I want to talk about, because I don't want to deal with you. It's just that I don't need to deal with you, so I won't deal with you, especially if you're up and coming. I never heard of you. That is a big mistake. Just be patient. It's not personal. Unless you've done something to make it personal, then it probably is.
Daniel Shahori joining us here on the program today. The book is called Media Whore, and I think anyone that's even remotely interested in how people brand themselves, that communication they have, and it's not even necessarily selling either. It's I think it's going to be a fascinating book. I think it's one that you want to pick up, and we hope that you'll pop by again sometime.
I will come by.
Awesome.
I'd love to. I live up the street.
Yeah. She's looking at us every day. Why is Dave wearing a red shirt? Yeah. The second book, How to Stock. Anyways, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That was awesome. Just stay there for a second. Okay, so here's what we'll do. Here's what you don't want to do at a hockey game. Now, I believe this is when the Leafs were playing in Ottawa, so it's a fan fight. And what happened? Because you can hear people yelling stuff, and it's typical of a place like Ottawa, because there are so many blue shirts in there, you're not sure what the home game is.
That's true.
This has a very bad ending And it's caused, who knows how it starts, but it's once again one of our favorites because it is one of the embarrassing and brutal world of fan fights.
What he's trying to be cool about it, bro. Give him the top or Tuesday.
Holy fuck, they're hurt.
Anybody else want to watch the game?
Oh yeah, he's hurt.
Go, Leafs, go! Go, Leafs, go!
Send that to me.
It's a good seat, Rob.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna do.
Hey, go! Ow!
He went hockey on him.
Yeah, well, there it is. There's once again. That's a lacrosse fight. Oh, this is going on. Trust me, I have so many of these things.
Can't wait for tomorrow's fight.
Oh yeah, fight. Yeah. Really interesting stuff from Daniel. Now, before we end the show, there's some other stuff that I wanted to get to as well. What else do I have up there? I know I had a bunch of fights, but do I have any sports that I want to talk about? I guess just a couple of highlights, really, as it pertains to the NFL. Odell Beckham Jr.
Yes.
A lot of people saw him going down in the preseason game. He walked off, got down, walked into the dressing room. Then he sort of knelt down again. He's saying that he might miss that first game against the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, and somewhere Rochelle Ryan is.
That's you know what? That's what I
doing
thought of
something.
too. That's
He's doing
exactly what I thought of. What would our Triple X friend think about that? You know what? We probably should ask her too. She'll be funny to do. But I think that if he misses one game, that's going to be it because I don't see a guy like that being out for more.
No, exactly. It really depends on the severity of it, but. He has some time. It is, the 24th, 25th of August. So he has a little bit. But man, what a way though to start because I believe that's a Sunday night game, Giants and Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott is obviously, even if that suspension's reduced, he's still going to be out for that game. Really good opportunity for the Giants to jump on the Cowboys, the division winners. By the way, the Giants beat the Cowboys twice last year. Cowboys only lost 3 regular season games throughout. Telling you something right there. So, and it's going to come down to those two teams in that division on who wins. So I'll be curious to see how that injury is taken care of because long term, they need that guy in the lineup.
Well,
to win.
But even think about that matchup. I mean, you were probably going to see Odell Beckham Jr., which is one of the reasons you're going to pay the money, and you're also going to see Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. Now, neither of them.
Neither of them, exactly.
Are you going to see Le'Veon Bell starting the first week of September? He tweets out and he says, "Yeah, you're going to see me." And he, of course, has not signed the that tender with the Steelers. It's like $12 million.
Yep.
But when you figure not only is he the best running back, he's also one of the top receivers in the league as well. Mm-hmm. He literally can do it all. And there are times where I look at players who refuse to sign contracts or they go into years where they're not going to training camp because he's not going to be in any exhibition games at all. He will not be playing exhibition games.
Nope.
He's one of the few guys that if he sits back and said, I am worth that money, you might want to pay the man because I don't think there's a lot of guys like Le'Veon Bell. He is a game changer. He's a franchise changer. And if you're going to spend the money, spend it on him.
I think Le'Veon Bell will be in Steelers camp on either the 28th or 29th of August. All signs point to it. He has been working out at home. He has been doing his stuff on his time. He will be ready for week 1. When the Steelers play their third playoff preseason game coming up this weekend against the Colts, he won't be part of it. He won't be part of week 4. He will be there in week 1 against the Cleveland Browns.
ESPN came out with their top 200 players, which Dave and Roast Beef completely hated. Hated it. Thought the names were all wrong. Maybe the janitor had some spare time because there's no writers left at ESPN because I guess when they want to go into a firing frenzy, which seems to be what we like to do in this industry, no one seemed to really like that 200 list. Now, Hockey News came out with their top 50, so we got the top 25 in front of us right now. So I'll go back to our good friend Dave Bastel. You're looking at this list. You're looking at those names. This is just the top 25.
Yeah.
Did they have a more accurate list?
You know what? Some of these names are just hurting me as far as point production is concerned. Because if you look at it, I'm okay with the top 5. Just looking at McDavid, Crosby, Carlson, Kane, Price. But after that, I think they overrate Sergei Bobrovsky on number 6. It makes no sense for a Patrice Bergeron and a Jonathan Toews to be at 11 and 12. Mark Scheifele, it is a crime that he isn't in the top 8. He's listed as 15, which makes absolutely no sense. Austin Matthews, I wouldn't put at number 8. However, I would put him in the top 12. So I don't think this is as far away as possible. Outside of that, Seguin and Jamie Benn, as far as 20 and 21, these guys may be top 6, top 7 point producers this season. The Dallas Stars have made some drastic changes, including Ben Bishop. They got a goaltender that can stop a puck. Mark Mathot was signed in the offseason to help the defense. And they also signed some guy from Montreal, you might remember, who was the Canadiens' best forward. Look for the Stars to do a hell of a lot better than that. And Ben and Seguin at those numbers, it's atrocious why they would be there. Ryan Suter makes no sense at number 22 either, because Ryan Suter's a nice defenseman. Love to have him on my team. He's not going to get you those kind of points as a top 3 or 4 defenseman overall in the NHL. And Brad Marchand, all of a sudden, he jumps from a top 5 player to the 23rd spot. No sense at all. Patrick Liney's a top 15 guy. He may win the Rocket Richard Trophy this year as the top goal scorer in the NHL. To list him at 24, I don't know where the premise has come from for the Hockey News, but overall, I'll give them a strong 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. You know, if that's a beauty contest, I can guarantee you the girl's either ugly or fat. That is not a compliment, Hockey News. Roast Beef, what do you think about those comments? Are you with Dave?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything he says. Austin Matthews, I guess I'm trying to temper expectations a little bit, so I thought 8 was a little high after only 1 year in the NHL.
69 points. He will improve on that, though, right?
He will. I just think you got to prove it over a certain period of time.
I got him down for 75 points this season.
I'd be perfectly happy with
Can
that.
I ask you a question that might be awkward?
Sure.
Do you love him? Do you love Austin Matthews?
I love Austin Matthews.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's the second guy that said that to me. Coach Frank is the first.
On that note. What? Not there's anything wrong with that. You can do what you want.
Let's become best friends. Yep.
He might have something to say.
You want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. It's time!
Yes, would like to thank Daniel Shahori joining us here on the program today. Media Whore is the book. Comes out in September. A lot of interesting stuff. And you know what? It was nice to hear that his take on dealing with the media, trying to get better within it, had a lot to do with being humble, and being polite. That's nice to hear. Coming up this week, including tomorrow, Victor Newman's going to make his picks. I think he's gone 3 for 4. He needs to go 4 for 4. And also probably throwing a wager on the McGregor-Mayweather fight where people all of a sudden a little confused.